True knowledge is for everyone. It's such a beautiful feeling, belonging to the whole wide world, where the art of living.
So, as I was saying, I was work on the brain, and no one understood what it was in the brain that was storing our memories. So our memories from yesterday, our memories from last year, our memories from childhood. And so that was what I had the fortune to accidentally stumble upon, the mechanism by which memories are stored in the brain. So it's the molecule that's in the brain that is storing information. And so that's relevant to not only for diseases like Alzheimer's disease and for the memories of painful events that we've had in the past, for addictions, that's memories of pleasurable events that we had but are bad for us. So basically, it's the same molecule that is storing these different forms of memories in the different nerve cells that we have in our brain. So the proof of, or part of the proof of what our discovery was that it was actually very easy to inhibit this molecule, to use a drug that would block the action of this molecule, because the molecule was an enzyme, basically a continual biochemical reaction that happens in our heads in specific synapses being the connections of the nerve cells. And you have to have this enzyme acting continuously to hold on to a memory. So what we showed is that we could erase memories by inhibiting the action of this drug, even memories that are very, very old. Or you can enhance old memories, make memories that are faded away fresh again by adding more of this enzyme.
Ooh.
So this was a very big, very useful and important, because no one had any idea how memory worked.
And it's a big discovery. I think
It's a big discovery. So I've been traveling around the world giving lectures, so I'm happy to be able to be here.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so.
What do you say about the consciousness which stores memories even from the past lifetimes? And that's when people undergo regression,
Well, I
when
think
they come up with the memories which they not experienced from this life or not heard, but they exhibit those things.
so. I would say the molecule that I discovered, or my laboratory discovered with the people in my lab, is really for the memories of this one individual life. But I would say that the memories that go from past generations are probably, there is another mechanism for that, which is called, basically involves a process called epigenetics. So genetics is, the DNA passing the information from one generation to another generation. But when something happens to one person, there can be an epigenetic change in the DNA that then can be passed on to generations. But I don't think it's very specific, like an individual memory per se, like the kind of memory that we would have of our birthdays. I'm not sure that gets passed. But memories of trauma, of injury, there's evidence that that type of memory can get passed on, can affect the DNA, can get passed on from generation to generation. At least for 2-3 generations that people know about. So there's that type of experience that can become a memory in a sense.
There are people like the child prodigies who play very good violin, which they have not learned those songs. But 8-year-old child plays very good it must be something connected with the memory which triggers. And these, some of such friends, like when I was 4-year-old, I could recite the Bhagavad Gita. I never studied that. So when I was first taken to the class, I started reciting, and the teacher was surprised.
Well, in your case, it was probably a miracle. Okay, so I'm not sure about other prodigies like Mozart or Beethoven or Picasso. So in those cases, first of all, I would say we don't know. That's the first thing I would say. But but a lot of these abilities that seem superhuman are probably have to do with would have to do with the circuitry of the brain in particular areas. So musical areas, verbal areas, memory areas. So there's probably a genetic component that makes the circuitry of those areas very extensive, very easy to pick up things. So it seems almost like a miracle.
Do you see there is a difference between consciousness and brain, or you think they're both the same?
Well, I think science can study consciousness by examining the activity of the brain that we all share. Okay, so what's similar to every human, that's something that could be studied by consciousness, and it has to do with the activity, with the firing of the neurons. But that sense of an individual, of why that one person exists in the universe, that I think is going to be very difficult for science to study, because it is such an individual, subjective relationship with the universe. So I think it may be many years, many centuries before science could understand that, if it ever can. So I think there are many different levels of ways of thinking about consciousness. As a neurologist, we think about consciousness in a very simple way. Are you in a coma? Are you asleep? Or are you awake? That's easy to study. You can study that in all animals. But there are many, many different levels of studying consciousness. And the highest level, the one that's most individual, will be something that people like yourself, will have to guide.
Yeah, it's the most amazing thing.
Yes, I think we both are finding it the most amazing thing.
Most amazing.
Well, my goal basically studying memory is something that could be solvable. In my generation of neuroscientists, that was the feeling. And so that's why me and many, many other scientists were trying to figure that out, because it could be solvable, even though it was very, very mysterious. Other things like, why it is that some people are great musicians, or what consciousness is, may take future generations, maybe the questions for future generations.
Here I have seen many young children, about 7-year, 5-year-old, 8-year-old. They remember their past lives, and they say, I was born in that village and they were my parents. And a 5-year-old child says that, and the parents simply took a chance. Well, he's saying it over and over, again and again. They went and found out that the person there existed, the same name. He died on the same place as this child has described. These many such phenomena indicate that there is a consciousness which takes the memory and then comes back. Perhaps this is something of a matter for research to do, how this could happen, what happens actually.
Well, it would be fascinating. And I know people who are interested in studying that. Other neuroscientists are interested in studying how it's possible to have memories that are so specific as that. But
here we have a National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences.
Right, that's where I just gave my lecture at the convention that was there.
We used to have, there was a parapsychology department. And there several psychiatrists have taken this project about studying about the lives, different lives of a person. And the number of cases, they have done the case study on that. It's very interesting to watch how they can specifically say where they were and what they were, and they had no idea about those things before.
Well, it's very difficult to study because you can basically, one can talk to the individuals and go back and do the research, but to get to the underlying mechanism of such a thing would be very, very difficult.
In India, we have what is called avdhan. This is a tradition. Avdhan is the person can hold memory of up to 500 numbers. Or 1,000 numbers.
Right.
So they undergo type of meditation. First you have to go backward in time. Like now we are sitting here. What happened for 20 minutes ago? We were playing with the elephant and you were on top of the elephant. Like that, reversing the memory every day. Mm-hmm. Every evening you sit at 6 o'clock and reverse your memory all the way to 6 a.m.
That's very interesting because that's sort of like rehearsing the memory back in time and leading in one moment of time leading to the moment in the past and going back and further. There's a very similar type of way of thinking about memory that allows someone to store many, many memories is to think in space and to have many, many memories as if you're putting the events in like a house, a giant house, and then you walk through the house remembering each of the different events. That's a very, very old technique from the ancient Greeks. Simonides, I believe, was the one who invented that.
Here there is a Jain tradition, the ancient Jains.
Tell me.
The monks, The monks in India, they used to do this avdhan. Jain and also the Hindu monks, priests. Mm-hmm. So the Shatavdhan is one who can go up to 100 numbers. You repeat 100 numbers like 90, 95 or 89, 76. Like these numbers, you repeat 100 numbers and they will repeat it the same order as soon as they hear that. And these are the degrees they used to get, Shatavdhani. Some who can remember 100 numbers, 100 words, like that. And so Avdhan was a tradition here in India. But today it's dying almost. It's a dying tradition, I would say.
Do you know how they studied it? How do they learn to do that? What kind of practice they did?
Breathing exercise and meditation.
I see.
They would do breathing exercise and would sit and do meditation. And in meditation, after that, this is a technique. One is going to the past, and then along with that is meditation. Mm-hmm. They would do this. And said there's the faith also that it says that when you go through like that in the time, the memory, you have erased any of the traumas or any unpleasant or unpleasant experiences you might have encountered during the time of the day, making you fresh and alive again.
Right. So that process, there may be some evidence for how that might work, because when you recall a memory, it is thought scientifically that you're bringing it out of long-term memory and redoing it and putting it in short-term memory and then putting it back into long-term memory. And that's a process called reconsolidation. That's the name of it. So if you are bringing a memory that's traumatic, that's painful out of the past, but then experiencing it again in an environment where you're more calm and have more insight, then the memory, when it goes back into the storage, it has been transformed by the new experience. So you're re-encoding, redoing the memory. And the most likely mechanisms that the PKM zeta molecules that were made from the original memory are being broken down when it's being recalled and resynthesized again. But the resynthesis of them would be in slightly different places in the brain. So parts of the brain that would be connected less with feeling pain and more with feeling calm maybe even pleasure.
Pleasure.
Okay.
So the point where you feel that pain and pleasure are completely opposite in the brain, is it?
I don't know enough about that to answer. There's some evidence that they're in different parts for sure, but the part that's pain may have many, many different roles. Okay, the part that's involved with pleasure is involved with sort of is closely related to habits. So
are these two parts where you say the pain and pleasure, are they diametrically opposite or they are in the same?
Well, they both exist on both sides of the brain. Okay, so there's one that's the pleasure center that people talk about. The pleasure center is sort of down here, and then the ones involved in fear are more like over here. But they're on both sides. But they're all connected with the whole rest of the brain. So that's why if one sees something that has frightened one in the past, it's the visual part of the brain, which actually is in the back, that is connected up with the fear part, which is over here.
In the yoga text, it is written that the consciousness functions in 4 ways. One is perception, on mind. The mind it perceives through the eyes, through the 5 senses. All through 5 senses, the perception aspect. And then the second aspect of consciousness, it says it is thinking, the judging, discriminating, understanding, thinking, that aspect of the consciousness, that function of the consciousness. The third one, it says, is memory. It stores in the consciousness. Deepest impressions get stored there. I see. So, and then the fourth aspect of it, it says, is the identity. The consciousness takes an identity. So, man, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, said these are the 4 internal organs. The internal functions of one consciousness. So, it's only one consciousness which functions in these 4 different ways.
Well, certainly each of those 4 are related to different parts of the brain. And yet, as you say, they're all connected together. Okay, memory is, in a sense, the most diffuse because memory can be of specific events like this conversation in this place at this time between 2 individuals. That type of memory is stored in the hippocampus, which is not too far from the fear area, but they're not necessarily connected, okay? So that's hippocampus. But then memories of smells or memories of what we hear or see, they're very closely related to the parts of the brain that do the encoding of the senses. So the memories of those senses are very intimately related to the parts of the brain that are processing the vision or processing the hearing. The part of identity, that's only people now are working on that, and that seems more in the front, maybe. And then another part is the feeling of the body, the sort of consciousness of the body, and that's in the insular cortex, another part that's buried deep inside the cortex. So all these parts of the brain are doing these things, and yet they're all, as you say, they're all connected.
Human mind and human consciousness is the most mysterious thing, isn't it? The more you know about it, the more you feel there is much more to know.
Well, it keeps us both very busy.
Absolutely. Right.
Well, thank you very much.
Very nice. I'm always deeply interested in science. Also, quantum physics is my favorite topic, subject. And if you understand through quantum physics the consciousness and the yogic scriptures, it's amazingly related. It looks very related. How the yogic scripture says this whole universe is made up of just one substance. And they compare this reality and the dream reality as nothing but two aspects of memory.
Hmm.
The dream nature of the world is because when you are in dreaming, that is very real,
Mm-hmm.
and it is nothing but memory.
Hmm.
And this is also memory.
Right.
This reality, all that you experience through the five senses, again a sort of dream, because they are just memories. Because every second now I am seeing a banana, the moment the mind registers it's a banana, it's already through memory I am seeing it.
That's true.
And all memory is nothing but like dreams, they are just fleeting impressions on the consciousness.
Well, this is why I study memory.
That's
Because
so
it's very important.
very important, very nice. We would like to present you the book of Yoga Vasishtha,
Oh,
and that you might find it interesting.
I'm sure I
Different
will.
dimensions of consciousness and what the consciousness.